The cold bit through my jacket as I stood on Mom's porch, my suitcase handle digging into my palm. "Please," I whispered, watching her face through the storm door. "Brandon left me. I lost my apartment. I just need a few weeks." Her eyes shifted past me to where Lydia stood in the hallway, arms crossed. My sister's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her designer sweater. "Seriously? You can't just show up and dump your failures on us." I waited for Mom to defend me, to say something. Anything. Instead, she looked at Lydia, then back at me. "Your sister has a point. We don't have the space right now." The door closed with a soft click that echoed louder than a slam. I stood there, watching my breath fog in the November air. Behind that door was the house I'd helped pay the mortgage on during college. The house where my childhood bedroom still had my posters on the walls. "I'll remember this," I whispered to the closed door. Then I turned and walked away, dragging my suitcase down the driveway I'd learned to ride a bike on, leaving behind the last piece of my old life. The basement apartment smelled like mildew and old paint. Flickering fluorescent lights hummed above the kitchenette, casting shadows across the concrete walls. Water pipes groaned overhead every time the upstairs neighbor used their bathroom. My entire life fit into 3 cardboard boxes stacked in the corner. I sat on the used mattress I'd bought for $50, still wearing my coat because the heat barely worked. The silence pressed against my ears. No Brandon, no family, no safety net. Just me and these 4 ugly walls. My phone buzzed. A text from Lydia. "Hope you're doing okay." I stared at those 3 letters until they blurred. Then I deleted the message and made myself a promise in that dim, lonely room. I would never beg anyone for help again. I would never stand on another doorstep with my hand out. I would build something so solid that no one could take it away. The apartment was horrible, but it was mine. That had to mean something. I opened my laptop and started searching for jobs. New jobs. Old jobs. My name is Maren Hayes, and at 27 years old, I was working double shifts at a diner that smelled like grease and broken dreams. The smell clung to my hair and clothes, but I didn't care. Double shifts meant double pay. And double pay meant I could afford groceries this week. My feet ached as I refilled coffee cups at midnight, smiling at truckers and night shift workers who left crumpled dollar bills as tips. The small TV above the counter showed the local news. I was wiping down table 6 when my sister's face appeared on the screen. "Local entrepreneur Lydia Hayes opens second luxury boutique location," the anchor announced cheerfully. My sister, same last name, completely different life. She stood in front of gleaming glass windows, wearing a cream suit I knew cost more than my monthly rent. "I'm just blessed to share beautiful things with our community," she said, her voice dripping with false humility. I squeezed the rag in my hand, watching dirty water drip onto the floor. That boutique was funded by the house. The same house that had no room for me. An elderly customer at the counter caught me staring. He left a $20 tip under his coffee cup. His note read, "You're meant for more than this. Don't forget it." I folded that note and put it in my pocket, right next to my broken pride. Night classes were brutal after working all day, but I showed up anyway. The community college's fluorescent lights felt different from the diners. These lights promised something. I sat in the back of Healthcare Administration 101, taking notes while my classmates yawned through lectures. Every application I'd sent for office jobs had been rejected. My degree in communications meant nothing without experience, and I couldn't get experience without someone giving me a chance. So I decided to build something new, something practical, something that would matter. My phone lit up during the break. Lydia had posted photos from her engagement party on social media. The party was at Mom's house, the house I'd helped save from foreclosure 5 years ago when Dad lost his job. I'd given them everything I had from my college fund. They'd promised to pay me back. They never did. But they had enough for Lydia's party, complete with ice sculptures and champagne fountains. I closed the app and returned to my textbook. Every rejection, every closed door, every laugh at my expense became fuel. I studied until my eyes burned and my hands cramped from writing notes. I bought Mom a small succulent plant for her birthday, spending money I didn't have because she was still my mother. I knocked on the familiar door, holding the wrapped pot carefully. Music and laughter poured from inside. Lydia answered, her face twisting with disgust. "Did you walk here from your dungeon?" She turned to the guests behind her. "Look, everyone, Marin's here." People I'd known my whole life stared at me with pity and amusement. I saw it in their eyes. I was the failure sister, the cautionary tale, the one who couldn't keep her life together. Mom appeared behind Lydia, lipstick perfect, not a hair out of place. I held out the plant. "Happy birthday, Mom." She took it with a tight smile. "Thank you, honey. That's sweet." I left before they could shut the door again. I walked 3 miles back to my apartment because I couldn't afford the bus fare. My feet blistered inside my only pair of work shoes. Later, I saw the plant in Lydia's social media post, re-gifted with a new ribbon. The caption read, "Love this thoughtful gift from my fiancé." I screenshot the post and saved it. I didn't know why yet, but I saved it. Dr. Keller stopped me after class, his expression serious behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Marin, your work is exceptional. I run a healthcare startup on the side, and we need someone detail-oriented for an internship." "Interested?" My heart hammered. "Yes. Absolutely yes. It's unpaid for the first month, then minimum wage after that. Long hours. Lots of grunt work." "I'll take it." He smiled. "You remind me of myself 30 years ago. Hungry and willing to work." The startup operated out of a converted warehouse, specializing in healthcare consulting and clinic acquisitions. I learned everything: filing systems, regulatory compliance, financial audits, patient care standards. I worked my diner shifts, attended classes, and spent every spare hour at Dr. Keller's office, absorbing knowledge like I was dying of thirst. 3 weeks into the internship, I overheard a meeting about acquiring small medical clinics across the state. One name jumped out from the list: Riverside Family Practice, where Brandon now worked as a nurse practitioner. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. My first real opportunity, and it was connected to the man who'd left me when I needed him most. The site visit was scheduled for a Tuesday. I dressed in my only professional outfit, a bargain rack blazer and borrowed pants that were slightly too short. Dr. Keller wanted me to observe how acquisition assessments worked. I walked through Riverside's doors, clipboard in hand, trying to look confident. And there he was, Brandon, standing at the nurse's station, laughing with a colleague, looking exactly like he hadn't destroyed my life 6 months ago. He saw me and froze. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Marin. Brandon." I kept my voice professional, steady. "I'm here with the Keller Healthcare Assessment Team. We're evaluating the facility for potential acquisition." His eyes traveled over my blazer, my clipboard, my calm expression. You're working for them?" "I am. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do." I walked past him, head high, ignoring how my hands shook. I took notes on patient flow, equipment maintenance, and staff efficiency. Brandon kept glancing at me from across the clinic, confusion written all over his face. Later, I heard him on the phone in the break room. "Yeah, Mom, it's weird. Marin's here like in a professional capacity. I don't know what she's doing, but I think she's actually doing okay." He sounded almost disappointed. That realization felt better than any apology he could have given. Mom's call came at 10 p.m., right when I was finishing an assessment report. "Marin, what lies are you telling people?" I pulled the phone away from my ear, confused. "What are you talking about?" "Brandon called me. He says you're pretending to work for some company, embarrassing yourself by playing professional. Why would you do that? Haven't you humiliated this family enough?" The words hit like slaps. I sat there in my tiny apartment, surrounded by textbooks and work documents, and felt something inside me go very quiet and very cold. "I'm not pretending anything, Mom. I actually work there. Don't lie to me." Lydia says people like you don't just get real jobs without. Hung up. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my mother. My hands didn't shake. My eyes didn't water. I just set the phone down and went back to my report. The next morning, Dr. Keller called me into his office. I overheard part of your phone conversation last night. I stayed late to work on the Mitchell proposal. My face burned. I'm sorry, I should have. You handled it with remarkable composure, he interrupted. That's why I'm promoting you to junior analyst. You've earned it. The financial audits became my specialty. I found patterns others missed, inefficiencies buried in spreadsheets that had been overlooked for years. My suggestions saved Keller Healthcare thousands of dollars in the first quarter alone. How did you spot this? Dr. Keller asked, pointing at my report on the Henderson Clinic supply chain waste. I worked in a diner, I explained. I know what it looks like when someone's skimming or being careless with inventory. Same principles, different scale. He laughed, but his eyes were sharp. You're wasted as a junior analyst. How would you feel about joining our senior strategy meetings? Those meetings were usually reserved for people with MBAs and decades of experience. I was 27 with a communications degree and 6 months of experience. But I said yes anyway. In those meetings, I learned how healthcare acquisitions really worked, the money, the properties, the human cost of business decisions. I learned to read between lines and see opportunities others missed. I was becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone who didn't need anybody's permission to succeed. The property list came across my desk on a random Thursday afternoon. I was reviewing potential real estate acquisitions when I saw it. 847 Maple Ridge Drive. My childhood address. Mom and Dad's house. My heart stopped. I read it again, checking the details. Behind on mortgage payments. Facing foreclosure. Property value estimated at market rate. Recommended for acquisition as investment property for future clinic expansion or resale. I sat very still, staring at that address. The house where I'd learned to walk. Where I'd celebrated birthdays. Where I'd stood in the cold, begging to be let in. The same house that had no room for me apparently had no room in the budget for mortgage payments either. Dr. Keller appeared in my doorway. Maren, we need your assessment on these properties by Friday. Anything jump out at you? I looked at him, then back at the address. This was the moment. Could speak up. Recuse myself. Walk away. Instead, I heard myself say, actually, I'd like to request lead on this one. Personal interest in ensuring we do this acquisition right. He didn't know what I meant, but he nodded. It's yours. Show me what you've got. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in my apartment, staring at the pipes overhead, wrestling with what this meant. Part of me wanted to save them. Part of me wanted to watch everything burn. But I'd learned something in those strategy meetings. Emotion made you weak. Business was business. If I recused myself, someone else would handle it anyway. At least this way I could control the process. I decided to be professional, fair, by the book. But I wouldn't save them from consequences they'd earned themselves. Digging deeper into the financials, I discovered why they were failing. Lydia's boutique had taken out massive loans, using the house as collateral. The boutique was drowning in debt, and it was pulling the whole family down with it. The same sister who'd sneered at my failures had gambled their home on designer handbags and luxury goods nobody was buying. The irony was almost beautiful. I prepared my recommendation. Proceed with acquisition. Offer standard terms. Allow temporary tenancy while they found alternative housing. Fair, professional, and completely devastating to people who'd once had everything. Mom's second call came at midnight. I almost didn't answer. Maren. Honey, it's Mom. The honey made my skin crawl. She never called me honey. What is it? We're having some financial difficulties. Lydia's business has hit a rough patch, and we're worried about the house. I know we haven't been close lately, but family helps family, right? I closed my eyes, remembering standing on that porch. Remembering the door closing. remembering every ignored text, every dismissive comment, every year of being the forgotten daughter. "I want to help," I said slowly. Mom's relief was audible. "Oh, thank God. I knew you'd. But I need to do it the right way. Through proper channels. I'll see what I can do. Thank you, baby. I knew we could count on you." After we hung up, I sat in the dark, thinking about what help really meant. I could tell her the truth, that her house was already in my company's acquisition pipeline, that I was the one reviewing the file. Instead, I decided to let her find out the hard way. Just like I'd found out standing in the cold, that some doors only open one way. The acquisition finalized on a Tuesday. Keller Healthcare now owned 847 Maple Ridge Drive. The family received official notice that a corporate buyer had purchased the property, and they'd be offered 6 months of tenancy at reduced rent while they made other arrangements. They didn't know the buyer was technically me, or rather my company. My recommendations had shaped every term of that agreement. I stood in the property manager's office when Lydia came in to sign the tenancy papers, furious and humiliated. "This is ridiculous," she snapped at the manager. "Some corporate vulture swooping in on a family home. Whoever bought this is probably some heartless shark who doesn't care about people." The manager glanced at me nervously. I shook my head slightly. "Not yet. The owner has been quite generous with the terms," the manager said carefully. "Most corporate buyers would evict immediately." Lydia scoffed. "Generous? They're stealing our house." She signed the papers with angry strokes, complaining the entire time about capitalism and injustice and corporate greed. I watched her from my seat in the corner, taking notes on my tablet. She didn't even glance my way. I was invisible to her, just another worker bee in the background. Walking out, she told Mom on the phone, "The new owner is probably some old man sitting in an office tower, counting his money. These people are parasites." My promotion to division manager came with an office, benefits, and a salary that made my diner wages look like pocket change. I oversaw community health initiatives and housing partnerships. Basically, I connected people who needed help with resources that could help them. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was becoming the person I'd needed when I stood on that porch. Part of my new role involved hiring for the clinics we'd acquired. I reviewed applications, conducted interviews, and made recommendations. When Riverside Family Practice, Brandon's clinic, needed a new administrative assistant, I handled the hiring personally. One application stood out: Lydia Hayes, my sister, applying for a job at a clinic I managed. Her resume was desperate and padded, listing her failing boutique as luxury retail management experience, and her college degree as if it were a PhD. The cover letter talked about her passion for helping people and seeking new challenges. She needed this job. Her boutique had officially filed for bankruptcy last week. Her fancy fiancé had postponed the wedding indefinitely, which everyone knew meant never. I could reject her application. One click and she'd never know I saw it. But that felt too easy. Too kind. I scheduled her interview for the following Wednesday, and I made sure I'd be on the panel. Lydia walked into the interview wearing a borrowed suit, her confidence forced and brittle. She smiled at the panel, Dr. Keller, the clinic administrator, and me. Her smile froze when she saw my face. "Maren." "Hello, Lydia. Please have a seat." I gestured to the chair across from us, my voice professionally pleasant. "Let's begin." She sat slowly, her eyes darting between me and the others, trying to understand what was happening. I could see her brain working, recalculating, panicking. "So, Lydia, tell us why you're interested in this position," Dr. Keller said. She stumbled through her answer, her usual polish cracking. She kept looking at me, waiting for me to save her or sabotage her. I did neither. I just listened, took notes, and asked professional questions about her experience and qualifications. At the end, Dr. Keller looked at me. "Maren, you're familiar with this candidate." "She's my sister," I said calmly. "But that won't affect my professional assessment. We offered her the position. Entry level. Minimum wage. No special treatment. She could take it or leave it. She took it. What choice did she have? Watching Lydia struggle with basic tasks gave me no pleasure, but it taught her something she'd never learned: humility. She filed papers, answered phones, dealt with angry patients, and cleaned exam rooms when the janitor called in sick. I treated her exactly like every other employee. Fairly, but without favoritism. When she did good work, I acknowledged it. When she messed up, I corrected her. I was never cruel, but I was never soft either. The other staff figured it out within a week. "Wait, you're Lydia's sister?" one nurse asked me. "The boss?" "Yes. Does she know what you do?" "She's learning." Lydia started piecing it together too. She saw me in meetings with Dr. Keller. She saw other managers asking for my approval. She saw my office, my title on the door, the respect people showed me. One day she cornered me by the coffee machine. "How long have you been working here?" "1.5 years. "And you're actually important here?" I looked at her tired face, her wrinkled budget blazer, her broken pride. "I'm good at my job, Lydia. That's all." She opened her mouth, closed it, and walked away. But I saw something change in her eyes. Maybe the first glimmer of understanding. The family dinner was Mom's idea, attempt to reconnect now that both her daughters were working in healthcare. She didn't understand that one of us managed the facilities while the other emptied bedpans. I almost didn't go. But something pulled me there, some need to see this through to the end. Lydia arrived late, exhausted from her shift. Mom fussed over her, asking about her important new job in the medical field. Lydia's eyes met mine across the table, and I saw the question there. Should I tell them? Before she could speak, Mom turned to me. "And Marin, how's your little internship going? Are they paying you yet?" The table went quiet. Dad set down his fork. Lydia stared at her plate. "Actually, Mom, I'm not an intern anymore. I'm a division manager. I oversee multiple clinics and community health programs." Mom laughed. "Oh, honey, there's no need to exaggerate. We're family." "She's not exaggerating," Lydia said quietly. "She's my boss." The color drained from Mom's face. "What? The company that bought our house?" I continued, my voice steady. "That was my company. Keller Healthcare. I'm the one who reviewed the acquisition. I'm the one who set the tenancy terms. And I'm the one who hired Lydia when her boutique failed." Complete silence. Mom's wine glass trembled in her hand. You bought our house?" Her voice cracked. "You evicted us. I gave you 6 months and reduced rent. More than you gave me when I stood on your porch, begging." Mom's breakdown was immediate and total. Tears poured down her face as the reality crashed over her. She'd trusted the wrong daughter. She'd invested everything in Lydia's dreams while dismissing mine. And now the daughter she'd turned away owned the roof over her head. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I didn't know you were doing so well. You never said. You never asked." Lydia stood up suddenly, her chair scraping. "This is insane. You planned this. You wanted revenge." "No," I said calmly. "I wanted survival. Everything else just happened." "You're heartless," Lydia spat. "You let us struggle. You watched us lose everything. I watched you lose what you gambled away yourself. I didn't create your debt. I didn't close your boutique. I didn't make the choices that brought you here." She stormed out. Mom sat there crying, and Dad just stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Later, after Mom had calmed down, I found an envelope on my car. Dad's handwriting. Inside was a letter, 3 pages long, apologizing for years of silence. He admitted he'd followed my success quietly, proud but too ashamed to reach out. He'd wanted to help me that night on the porch, but he'd stayed silent. He'd failed me. The letter ended. "You became everything I hoped you'd be, and nothing I deserved." Cried reading it. The first real tears in 18 months. I gave Mom a choice. 6 months of reduced rent, then I'd help them relocate to a smaller, more affordable place. I'd cover the moving costs and first month's rent. But the house was gone. That chapter was closed. She sat in my office, my actual office, looking small and old. I don't deserve this kindness. No, I agreed. But I'm giving it anyway. Not because of who you were to me, but because of who I choose to be. I was wrong, Maren. I was so wrong about you. About everything. Those words, I was wrong. I'd waited years to hear them. They should have felt triumphant. Instead they just felt sad. I know. Can you forgive me? I thought about that question for a long time. I can move forward. I don't know if that's the same as forgiveness, but it's what I can offer right now. She nodded, wiping her eyes. That's more than I deserve. We weren't fixed. We probably never would be. But something shifted in that moment. Not reconciliation exactly, but the beginning of something real. Something honest. For the first time in my life, my mother saw me clearly. Not as the daughter who failed, but as the woman who'd survived. I drove to the diner where I'd worked those endless double shifts. It looked exactly the same. Same cracked vinyl booths, same flickering TV, same smell of grease and coffee. The elderly customer who'd left me that note was there, sitting at the counter with his usual black coffee. He looked up when I walked in, and recognition sparked in his eyes. You, he said, smiling. The girl who was meant for more. You remember me. Course I do. You had that look in your eyes, the one that says you're either gonna break or build. I gambled you'd build. I sat beside him and we talked for an hour. His name was Walter and he'd been a teacher for 40 years. I can always spot the fighters, he said. They've got this quiet determination. Stubborn hope. I kept your note, I told him. It's in my wallet. I read it on bad days. He patted my hand with his weathered one. I told you so, didn't I? You were meant for more than this place. Not that there's shame in honest work, but you had that spark. Just needed someone to tell you it was there. Leaving the diner felt like closing a circle. That place had been my rock bottom and my launching pad. Now it was just a memory, one I could look at without flinching. Lydia appeared at my office 3 months later, without an appointment. My assistant tried to stop her, but I waved her in. She looked different, thinner, harder, but somehow more real. The polished veneer was gone, stripped away by months of actual work and genuine struggle. My marriage is over, she said, standing in front of my desk. Blake left. Said he didn't sign up for this version of me. I'm sorry. No, you're not. She laughed bitterly. And you shouldn't be. He was shallow and I was shallow, and we deserved each other until we didn't. Why are you telling me this? Because I need a job. Real one. Not entry level. I've been working hard, Maren. Really hard. For the first time in my life, I'm not coasting on looks or charm or mom's money. I'm actually trying. I studied her carefully. What makes you think you've earned anything more? Nothing. I haven't earned anything. But I'm asking anyway. 'Cause that's what you do when you need help, you ask. You taught me that. The irony was perfect. My sister, who'd watched me beg from a porch, was now begging from my office. Could have said no. I could have made her suffer more. Instead, I said, there's an opening for a patient coordinator at our new clinic. Better pay, real responsibility. You'll have to interview properly. And if you get it, you'll work harder than you've ever worked. I will. I promise. Don't promise me. Prove it. Over the next year, Lydia did prove it. She showed up early, stayed late, and learned every aspect of patient care administration. She was good at it, genuinely good. Her people skills, once used for manipulation, became assets in helping scared patients navigate healthcare bureaucracy. We weren't close. We probably never would be. But we were something. Professional, respectful, occasionally even kind. Mom's health began declining that winter. Minor at first, forgetfulness, fatigue. Then the diagnosis, early onset dementia. She was only 63. Lydia and I sat in the neurologist's office together, listening to words like progression and care planning. When we left, she looked at me with hollow eyes. I wasted so much time being jealous of nothing. You were jealous of me. Of course I was. You were smart, driven, and independent. I was pretty and mean. Guess which one lasts? We divided Mom's care between us. Doctor's appointments, medications, and eventually the difficult conversation about assisted living. For the first time in our lives, we worked together instead of against each other. Dad helped where he could, but the guilt ate at him. I should have done better by both of you, he said one night. I let your mother's favoritism poison everything. You're helping now, I told him. That counts for something. Mom's confession came on a good day, when her mind was clear and sharp. Lydia and I sat beside her bed in the assisted living facility, and she looked at both of us with devastating clarity. I ruined you both, she said. I made Lydia think she was special for things that don't matter. I made Maren think she wasn't special at all. I was a terrible mother. Mom, Lydia started, but Mom shook her head. Let me say this while I can. Maren, you were always the stronger one. That scared me. You didn't need me the way Lydia did, so I convinced myself you didn't need me at all. I was wrong. You needed me differently, and I failed you. I know. Can you forgive me? Both of you. Lydia answered first. Yes, of course. They both looked at me. I took a breath, feeling the weight of years pressing down. I forgive you for being human, for making mistakes, for not being perfect. But I can't forget what happened, and I won't pretend it didn't shape me. That's fair, Mom whispered. That's more than fair. She fell asleep holding both our hands. When we left, Lydia asked, Do you really forgive her? I'm trying to. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's work every day. Some days I manage it. Some days I don't. I don't know how you do it. How you're not angrier. I was angry. For a long time. But anger is exhausting, and I got tired of carrying it. I stood in the driveway of 847 Maple Ridge Drive one last time before the sale finalized. The house looked smaller than I remembered, less imposing. Just a building. Just wood and brick and memories that didn't own me anymore. This was the driveway where I'd learned to ride my bike. Where I'd sat crying after my first heartbreak. Where I'd stood in the cold, suitcase in hand, learning that some doors close forever. I held the keys now. I could keep it, rent it, sell it for profit. I had earned that right through years of work and struggle and refusing to break. Instead, I donated it to a women's recovery program, a place for women escaping abuse, addiction, or homelessness. Women who needed a door to open when every other door had closed. The director cried when I handed her the paperwork. Do you know how many lives this will change? I thought about Walter's note, still in my wallet. About Dr. Keller taking a chance on a desperate student. About every small kindness that had helped me survive. Someone helped me when I needed it, I said. This is just paying it forward. Driving away, I didn't look back. That house belonged to my past. My future was somewhere else entirely. 5 years later, I'm 32 and running my own healthcare consulting firm. We specialize in helping small clinics stay independent and profitable. Dr. Keller is my business partner and mentor. We employ 40 people, including Lydia, who manages our patient advocacy program. Mom lives in a good memory care facility, peaceful and well cared for. On her clear days, she tells me she's proud of me. I've learned to accept that without needing it. Dad and I have coffee every Sunday. We talk about sports, politics, and weather. Safe topics that don't require digging up the past. It's enough. I visited Mom yesterday, sitting beside her bed in the afternoon sunlight. She looked at me with that distant confusion that's become familiar. Do I know you? I'm Maren. Your daughter. Oh, she smiled vaguely. That's nice. Before I left, she grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Her eyes cleared for just a moment, and she whispered the same words I'd said on her porch all those years ago. I'll remember this. But this time those words meant something different. Not a threat. Not a promise of revenge. Just acknowledgement. Just truth. I know, Mom, I said softly. I'll remember too. I walked out of that facility feeling lighter than I had in years. I'd built a life they couldn't afford, not just financially but emotionally. I'd built peace where there'd been pain. I'd built forgiveness where there'd been fury. The girl who stood on that porch in the cold had wanted revenge. The woman I became wanted something better. Freedom. And freedom, I learned, isn't about making others pay. It's about refusing to let their debts define you. It's about building something so solid that no closed door can destroy it. I got in my car and drove toward my future, leaving the past exactly where it belonged, behind me, remembered but no longer in control.